Whatever is necessary to do, you do it. When somebody needs to be killed, there's no wrong. You do it. And then you move on. And you pick up a child, and you move him to the desert. You pick up as many children as you can. And you kill whoever gets in your way. This is us.
Vincent T. Bugliosi was selected from 450 lawyers to prosecute Charles Manson and his co-defendants. He went far beyond the traditional role of a prosecutor, personally gathering much of the evidence. Colleagues, judges, the press, and even Charles Manson have called Bugliosi a judicial genius.
The Tate LaBianca murders were the so-called story on page one, not only here in Los Angeles, but throughout the entire world. It is generally agreed that this case received more publicity than any other trial in American history. The trial was also the most expensive trial in American history, costing the county of Los Angeles $1 million. The trial itself took 9.5 months, the longest murder trial in American history. These 7 incredible murders were perhaps the most savage, bizarre, nightmarish murders in the recorded annals of crime. Sharon Tate's husband, movie director Roman Polanski, could not himself have conceived of a more monstrous, macabre scene of human terror and massacre than that which took place at his own residence in the early morning hours of August the 9th, 1969.
Beautiful honey blonde Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant and anxiously awaiting her first baby. That night, she'd pinned up her large dogs because earlier she'd taken in a stray kitten. Her husband, Roman Polanski, was filming in London and not due home until the next day. He'd asked his boyhood chum, powerful Wojciech Frykowski, to stay at the house and look after Sharon. Paul Richard Polanski, a tiny soul who died never having lived. Abigail Folger, heiress to the vast Folger coffee fortune. She preferred social work in Watts, the black ghetto of Los Angeles, to a jet-set lifestyle. Jay Sebring, a close friend of the Polanskis. He dropped in for the evening. Teenage Stephen Parent, his timing was tragic. He was driving out of the gate as the killers were driving in.
The brutality and savagery of the murders were incredible. There was a total of 169 stab wounds, 7 gunshot wounds.
Susan Atkins, alias Sadie. Her glee club remembers her as a shy, sensitive girl. Her own baby was only 10 months old when Sadie, a new mother, butchered the expectant Sharon Tate. Leslie Van Houten, alias Lulu, a Girl Scout, an all-A student, homecoming queen. Patricia Krenwinkel, alias Katie, a Bible student, a Sunday school teacher. She planned to become a nun. 6'2" Charles Watson, alias Tex, star of the football and baseball teams, student body president. He was voted most likely to succeed. Linda Kasabian, alias Darling. She drove the killers to the Tate house and witnessed the massacre. Then on the following night, drove the killers to the LaBianca home. 5 months later, Linda Darling Kasabian turned state's evidence and got away with murder.
To make the murders even more bizarre, the killers printed the word pig in Sharon Tate's blood on the outside of the front door of the Tate residence, and the words helter-skelter in Lino LaBianca's blood on the refrigerator door. They also printed the words death to pigs and rise in Lino's blood on the living room wall of the LaBianca residence. They also carved the word war on Lino's stomach.
Wealthy Lino and Rosemary LaBianca were reading the newspaper account of the terrifying slaughter at the Tate home when the same killers struck again.
6 killers, not just 1, but 6, were involved in the conspiracy and perpetration of these 7 murders. Moreover, the killers turned out to be so incredibly far out and unusual in their lifestyle and philosophy that when their identity became known, they actually upstaged the victims.
In the pre-dawn hours of August 11th, 1969, following 2 nights of murder, Charles Manson was under police surveillance at the Spawn Movie Ranch, nestled in the hidden hills above the Santa Susana Pass. A wealthy car dealer had complained, and the police acted promptly. On August the 16th, over 100 deputies in full combat gear and under air cover raided Manson's compound, charging the Tate LaBianca killers with auto theft.
Charlie has all the fear. Everybody has given their fear to Charlie. You have to make love with it. You have to know it. You have to know every part of it. And to know you know it is to know it, so that you could pick it up any second and shoot. Everybody is afraid of death. And that's what's holding things up. Nobody is content right now with the world they've created. Yet their minds are all locked by a fear of death.
Aren't you worried about the police?
If you want it, here it is. Come and get it. But you better hurry, because it won't be here long, you motherfuckers.
In the 9-month period preceding the Tate LaBianca massacres, there were many others seemingly unrelated murders, one of which was the bloody torture killing of musician Gary Hinman. His small house in Topanga Canyon had been a haven for homeless hippies, one of whom was handsome Robert Beausoleil, alias Cupid, introverted, religious, a devoted son. On Manson's orders, Beausoleil slaughtered his buddy, Gary Hinman.
Charlie and Bruce Davis drove Sadie and Mary Bruner, Bobby Beausoleil, up to Gary's house. He told Charlie, take your people and get out of here. And Charlie took a machete and sliced off Gary's ear. So Sadie sewed his ear back on with some dental floss. But still, Gary wouldn't give up the money, so they kept stabbing him and torturing him for 2 days. So Charlie said, well, you know what to do, kill him. Bobby stabbed him, and Sadie held a pillow over his head until he stopped breathing.
In my opinion, no one could have done what Charles Manson did without having a very powerful personality.
On November 12, 1934, an unwed teenager, Kathleen Maddox, gave birth to a premature baby at the county hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio. Father, unknown. She named him Charles Maddox Manson, later also known as Jesus Christ. Shortly after, the teenage mother was jailed for prostitution, and young Charlie became a throwaway child. He was bounced from foster homes to juvenile institutions to boys' towns to reform schools to federal reformatories to county jails to state prisons to federal penitentiaries, and finally to San Quentin, Cell 13, death row. By the time he was 37, the 5'3" Manson had a rap sheet boasting 50 convictions.
Hello.
In these institutions, he learned the arts of thievery, larceny, blackmail, forgery, pimping, and murder. And the straight-A student surpassed his teachers. The 60s marked the great black uprisings. The black prisoners, with their newly found dignity, openly boasted to Charlie of an impending revolution where Whitey would no longer run things. The prison walls around Charlie reverberated with rumors of heavy arms caches, of Black Panther supremacy, and Charlie's helter-skelter began to take shape. In March of 1967, he was released from Terminal Island Prison in Los Angeles, assessed the hippie movement, then headed for Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, where the flower children were beginning to wilt. He invaded the hippie scene, a Venus flytrap among the flowers. Paul Watkins, a true flower child, a musician, At 16, he was lured into the family by Charlie's women and drugs. But when murder became their lifestyle, he fled the pack. He's among those the family vow to kill.
The hippie movement, when it started, was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen. People walking up and down the streets, throwing flowers and kissing each other and hugging each other and taking their shirts off and giving each other shirts and smiling at each other and making love with each other all in the streets and in the park. And I could see music and everything in it. And I hurried up and took off. And death has no place in this. Death is the other way. We're going to life, man. This whole thing that we're into is life.
Manson's principal motive for ordering the 7 Tate LaBianca murders was his fanatical obsession with helter-skelter, a term he borrowed from the English musical recording group the Beatles. Manson was an avid follower of the Beatles and believed that they were prophets speaking to him through the lyrics of their songs.
And everything that everything was for was always for fucking. That's what everything was for. If we weren't doing that, we was leading up to it. And if we weren't leading up to it, we was doing that. And that's what it was all for. That's what everything we ever did was for. Until he got on his helter-skelter trip. And then it seemed to change.
What Manson was seeking to do by these murders was to ignite helter-skelter. That is, start the black-white war by making it look like black people had murdered these 7 Caucasian victims. In his warped mind, he thought this would cause the white community to turn against the black community and ultimately lead to a black-white civil war, a war which Manson foresaw the black man as winning. Manson envisioned that black people, once they destroyed the white race and assumed the reins of power, would be unable to handle the reins of power because of inexperience, and would therefore have to turn over the reins to those white people who had survived helter-skelter. So in Manson's warped, twisted mind, his family, and particularly he, of course, would be the ultimate beneficiaries of a black-white war.
When we were selling together, we used to lay in bed at night and talk about what we were going to do when we got out, because we were both doing 10 years, and that's a long time, so you don't have anything else to do at night except talk about the future. Everybody seemed to think Charlie was just kind of a guy to have around to make fun of and to just use.
He's hard for me to talk about because he's so many things to me. Like, he opened me up. Like, I was living with my dog in an apartment and having just a real go to work, go home, go shopping, go to work, go home, go to the movie, go to bed, go shopping. You know, it was so routine. It was really a drag, and it was getting to me. And then Bowie came in, and I just dropped it, you know, whatever was happening, and took off.
Maria Teresa Bruner, alias Mother Mary, a college graduate and a librarian at the University of California. She was the first girl Manson collected and the mother of his son, Pooh Bear. She turned state's evidence in the gruesome Hinman slaying, was granted immunity, then on Manson's orders repudiated her testimony. She's currently on trial for perjury, armed robbery, and attempted murder. On the nights of the Tate LaBianca massacres, Manson assigned new member Linda Kasabian to drive the killers because she had the only valid driver's license, besides Mary Bruner, who was in jail on those nights. Sandy Good, in jail with Mary on those nights, recalls them.
Mary and I were in jail the night of the murders, and we picked up the paper, and Mary says, "Right on." And I said, "Wow, I guess they did it."
He just brought it out. Just brought out all the stuff that I was sticking in a slot, you know. And that's how he is with most people, and that's why he's in jail.
I had this conception of Charlie as being like not a leader. He wasn't a leader. He was always a follower, or at least he always conveyed that impression. I always felt that he was good. Like he was on what they call the pay me no mind list. That's the kind of list that everybody thinks you're crazy, but you're a harmless nut, so nobody bothers you. You know, they'd say, "Oh, Charlie, get out of here. You know, take your act somewhere else." You know, you could walk up and tell them, you know, "Fuck you, punk."
Well, I got into the family. First of all, I used to watch the black bus go up and down Topanga Canyon Boulevard. Charlie had this big black bus with a little box on top that used to tilt over to the side a little bit, so it looked like a little black guy with a top hat on. And I saw this bus going down the canyon with this wild guy driving it, who turned out to be Charlie. And some girls picked me up hitchhiking, who turned out to be some of Charlie's girls.
Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Linda Kasabian, Mary Bruner, Catherine Scher, Sandy Good, Nancy Pittman, Lynn Fromm, Cappy Gillis, Barbara Rogenberg, Ruth Ann Morehouse, Jennifer Leghorn, Kitty Lutzinger, Susan Bartell, Kay Wallace, Diane Lake, Barbara Hoyt.
They would turn me on. About a month later, I was walking through Topanga Canyon. I needed a place to sleep. It started getting cold. And so I went up and knocked on the door, but who came to the door was 3 girls. Some of the prettiest girls I'd ever seen. One of them's name was Snake, a little red-headed chick, and Brenda, this other little chick. They all had real long hair, and they looked really pretty to me. And a big puff of marijuana smoke hit me in the face, and that smelled good to me.
I was at Dennis Wilson's house, which really it astounded me at that time because I'd never seen a place like that. It was like a mansion.
Brooks Poston,
Jungle around it.
a musician who succumbed to
I thought it
Manson.
was the sun down.
Charlie ordered him to die,
The sky
and to
was
please
red.
Charlie, he tried to kill himself.
And Charlie comes and he sees the guy that I'm with, and he kneels and kisses his feet. Wow. After that, I just kind of took more acid, because that was like my second acid trip when I saw Charlie tell Dean again that he could live forever if he was willing to die at that moment. To me, he looked like, acted like, said the right words at the right time. So to me, he was Christ.
In the spring of '68, Manson conned the blind 80-year-old George Spahn and settled his family at the Spahn Movie Ranch, once owned by silent screen star William S. Hart. They lived in the ramshackled, broken-down movie sets, panhandled, hustled, stole, shoveled manure, and ate garbage. But the obvious discomforts of life with Charlie were far more desirable to these runaways than their parents' comfortable homes.
Happiness is yours. From your white cloud machine, happiness will brighten your dream. From your white cloud machine.
At 16, beautiful Nancy Pittman, alias Brenda, ran away and joined the family. Brenda said, "I left home because there was nothing to keep me there. It wasn't a family. We just occupied the same house."
The first day I went in a garbage run, Charlie said, "Take some clean clothes because you'll get dirty in the can, and go do a garbage run." And I went down to the market. I hopped in the can,
And it was a lot of fun. I just went through it and got all dirty and everything, and went through and picked just the very best of everything, and took it and cleaned it and took the skins off and cut any spots out. And we used to feed 20 to 30 people a night out of those cans, and every bit of it was the very best of everything.
Charlie taught them to get food for nothing. When they went on the garbage runs, they always knew, like the days big supermarkets would throw away their old vegetables and their leftovers, and they'd have to go taste it. No matter what it was, garbage or food, clothing, they made a habit of stealing it or finding it. Sometimes Sadie or one of the girls had to go to bed with one of the managers so they could have an okay to get the garbage.
We picked through it, and we picked all the ones that didn't have any bruises on them or anything like that. We took them out. We went through and we discovered they threw out boxes and boxes of stuff like this.
Charlie never said he was a hippie. He always poked fun at the hippies because the hippies, to him, were asking for trouble because they looked too much different. He always told us that we were slippies, and you know, he made us get haircuts, the guys, and dress in cowboy clothes when we were at Spawn's.
If you didn't like Charlie, why did you stay with him?
You know, Charlie wasn't always the vicious, mean person. No, he got some of George's cars running. He brought George an old Studebaker once, fixed up some trucks, made sure the ranch had food.
What did you do at the ranch?
Worked for George from about 6, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning till sundown, up at the front part of the ranch. If I didn't have a place to stay.
Why did Spawn let Charlie take over the ranch?
George pretty much liked the girls. The girls were there constantly. They were always paying attention to George and keeping him company.
These little all-American girls Manson collected came equipped with a multitude of social and sexual taboos, which Manson eradicated. Grateful, the girls worked slavishly for him, doing the same menial chores they hated at home. They sewed fanatically and embroidered Charlie's ceremonial vest, which became as infamous as the family.
Said you're a young girl and you don't know right from wrong. It's said by people who cannot sing your song. You let them work their magic, but remain within yourself strong. You're such a young girl, and you've been here so long. Know what you feel, but you don't say what you see. You see people shouting that they can set you free. You know it's that change they're seeing, and you let them be. You're such a young girl to have been through eternity.
This is Charles' vest. We've watched him look at it and feel it and wear it, and he's the only one that can wear it. It's about 4 or 5 years of almost continuous stitching. It's our story. There's about 15 girls that worked on that vest. At the time that we all shaved our heads, we cut it first, and we cut off all the locks and wove them together and sewed them
onto a collar. Sue's hair's on it, my hair's on it, Sadie's is on there, Leslie's and Katie's, Mary's and Capistrano.
Bordering on the cannibalistic, they recorded on the vest their customs, ceremonies, killings, and the numerous births. All babies were delivered by the family because doctors were barred by Manson. He said, doctors are only good for curing the clap.
The way they deliver babies in hospitals, the only way it's handy for is for the doctor. Because the mother is in a bad position for herself, and the child is in a bad position, he has to struggle too much to get out. When I had my baby, I was sitting up, and he fell out, and he came out backwards, and he came out perfect, plop, and someone caught him.
She just came in, she was out riding a horse, and she came in and said, I'm gonna have my baby now.
There wasn't any need for all the things that the doctors have invented in the last 100 to 200 years, when women were having babies for 1,000,000 years, or ever how many there have been.
And the contractions got very close, and the girls all picked her up and suspended her in the air.
It's beautiful experience when you can lay back or sit up or do whatever and have your own kid.
Charlie got more and more nervous, and he took a razor blade and he slid a little hole there where it'd be a bigger hole for him to come out of.
And it was a family affair. It was party.
On one of the contractions, he just looped out. Well, after he came out, Snake reached over and bit off the umbilical cord, took a guitar string and tied it so it wouldn't bleed all over the place.
And babies became an obsession with the family. Manson ordered the girls to get pregnant, and the guys obliged. These children were denied nothing. They smoked pot, dropped acid, and participated in the family orgies. And to patiently instruct these children, Manson appointed Bruce Davis, his second in command, a YMCA youth counselor, a Little League coach, a convicted double murderer.
It's only a game we play, question answer. To have something to do, to cause an effect, to make a change, to make something go. Help is something that we all want to do. Everyone wants to help, man. I want to help. You want to help? He wants to help. Cameraman wants to help. Jack, everybody wants to help. But they've always been told, well, you can help by doing this, or you can help by doing that. And they said, what's help? And they said, well, help's when you're doing that. But everybody who has ever tried to help them has betrayed them. And they're reactive behind being betrayed. They go crazy. Somebody says help, and they say, ugh, my God.
Having surrendered on Manson's orders, Davis is serving a life sentence for the murders of Carrie Hinman and Donald Shorty Shea.
To do what he did, Manson effectively utilized LSD, sex, all types of perversion.
Well, all the time I lived with Charlie, all we ever did amounted to smoking grass, taking acid, and making love as much as we could. The most insane trip that we ever had together with the family is we always called it the freak out. And we took two little teeny white tablets of LSD, and when we came on, we got so flipped out and so far out of control that Charlie just put on his clothes and went running out. He went running down the road. And then everybody just went stark raving mad. I mean, just completely crazy. Arms and legs flying in every direction and people screaming, "Charlie! Charlie!" And then I go, "Charlie? Who in the hell's Charlie?"
When we got out to the lake, I started coming on to acid. Lynn was there, 5 girls and Charlie, and the whole bus took on the shape of a harem tent. And like I was a sheik, and I had all these women around me, and then I would look into this girl's face and it would break up into little pieces and change into another face. And then I got up, I got real like panicked, opened the door and I said, "Charlie," and he turned around and he looked just like the devil. And I said, "Man, we're in hell." And he says, "Yeah, ain't it groovy?"
All the guys had to get over all their homosexual things by doing everything that you could possibly think of doing with guys. And all the girls had to do everything they could possibly think of doing with girls. Any kind of combination that you could possibly think of. And all the virgins had to be fucked right off the bat, in super ways, and they would just completely flip out. When Sherry came with the family, she was virgin and she was scared. She was scared stiff. She was like, her first real big experience with the family, she was on acid, or mescaline. We all took mescaline. And she flipped plumb out on that trip. It was a little bit after the freak out, and she flipped completely out, and she'd get all uptight and scared, and she'd fight, and she was fighting and fighting, and then she'd hold down, and then she'd go, and then she'd realize what was happening to her again, and she'd get all uptight, and she'd fight, and Charlie, he just sat over in the corner and kind of conducted the operation. Like,
I was pretty friendly with the people at the stables. From horseback riding at the Spawn Ranch, Randy asked me, did I want to go get stoned? And so I said, yeah. So he took me over to the house and introduced me to everybody. And we sat around and got stoned, and everybody was bawling. And so I met up with Charlie at that time. And Charlie and I had sex. And I felt it. He was a pretty sadistic kind of a character. He, bit people, and he was kind of cold and cruel, and selfish.
When I was with Charlie, we took anywhere between 30 and 40 trips on acid alone. That's not counting all the different times we took things like belladonna and smoked hashish a lot and smoked marijuana all the time and psilocybin and mescaline and a little opium. We didn't mess around with any hard drugs.
With the global manhunt for the killers in its 4th month, Susan Atkins confessed to her first cellmate, Nancy Jordan. But Nancy kept silent, explaining, in jail, if you don't want your throat slit, don't snitch. Teenaged Corey Hurst was arrested for a minor offense, possessing a marijuana joint, and placed in the same cell with Susan Atkins, a confessed murderess. A misdemeanor put Sharon Rossberg in the same cell with the Manson girls. She said Sadie was so far out even the Bull Dykes wouldn't mess with her. Ronnie Howard, alias Veronica Hughes, alias Connie Johnston, alias Shelley Nadell, alias Veronica Williamson, alias Connie Champagne, alias Rhonda Armstrong Smythe.
Ladies and gentlemen, because I, Ronnie Howard, broke the Tate and LaBianca case and prevented no telling how many more murders, I've been shot at, assaulted, harassed, beaten, threatened, and it's very likely and very possible that by the time you see this picture that I may be dead.
Snitches will be taken care of.
I met the Manson girls in SBI.
Well, I was jailed for bad checks and sent to Civil Brand.
Billy Bitches Institute.
Oh, that's the county jail for women.
Why did I get to Civil Brand?
For possessing narcotics.
Forgery of a prescription.
Heroin.
That's how I first met Susan Atkins at Civil Brand.
She slept in the bed next to me.
Well, it's full of the ugliest people you've ever seen in your life. I mean, everywhere you look, there are these ugly, depressing people walking around. And there are the whores, the junkies, and dykes, and the Manson girls were there, too.
Yes, she asked me, she said, Nancy, are you my friend? And I said, yes. She said, can I trust you? I said, yes.
Well, the pretty girls get bailed out by their pimps or boyfriends or lovers or something pretty fast, but like the ugly broads just stay there forever.
We mostly rapped, about old times, and things that were happening. And one night, I guess she couldn't sleep. She came and she woke me up. And she sat down by my bed and she began to tell me about the Sharon Tate murders.
She was in jail on the Hinman murder at that time, but they didn't know anything about the Tate or LaBianca's or any other murders.
She told me that she killed Sharon.
I didn't believe her at first.
She said that Sharon was crying, and begging.
And she'd talk about how she'd stabbed the plastic-faced mannequins, which is what she'd called Abigail Folger and Sharon Tate.
Every time she screamed, she'd stab her again, and she just kept stabbing her until she stopped screaming.
And she said that Sharon would plead for the life of her baby, but the whining had got on her nerves, and that she kept stabbing her in the stomach, but she had a hard time because Sharon was trying to protect her stomach with her hands.
And she told me that to stab somebody is better than having a climax. To stab somebody is a sexual release in itself anyway, because the whole world is one big intercourse, and everything in life is in and out, whether it's smoking, eating.
Charlie said the whole universe is one great big fuck. Everything. He said it was everything.
Susan told me one time about this fellow that was going to kill himself anyway, but he wanted to do it while balling Susan.
Charlie said die to him just as much as he did to everyone else.
Since he was going to kill himself anyway, she thought it would be a groovy experience. So he had the gun in his hand, and he and Sadie were balling, and he told her, he said, now, when you start to reach your climax, tell me when.
That's this Christopher Jesus that you talk about.
As soon as she started reaching her climax, she told him, okay, now. And when she said now, he just took the gun to his head and bang. And killed himself right in the head. And she said it was really groovy because, especially, she said, when she sucked the blood from his mouth, because she was climaxing, and I guess he climaxed. That's what she told me, that a person climaxes when they die. And she said, but it was really groovy. She sucked the blood from his mouth, and it was warm, and she said it was just too much, that I should try it sometime.
Like they think it's right to murder. They want to murder. Look at all the people, and they get a kick out of it. A sexual kick out of it. The whole thing, I think it's sick. I mean, I don't know.
But she said they wanted to do it, something to really shock the world. They wanted to take their eyeballs out and squish them against the walls and really make it gruesome. They were glad that these people were celebrities. But she said the bigger things are yet to come. And they wanted to really make it gruesome then.
I showed her this picture of Elizabeth Taylor, and I was telling her how beautiful she looked, and she said that she deserves to die.
Sadie thought she was really pretty, but she had to destroy her looks to bring out the real beauty in her. She was going to poke out her eyes and take a knife and get it real red hot and put it on the side of her face and burn her. Sadie liked Tom Jones sexually, but they didn't like him really because, like, he was famous. He had political influence, as where Charles Manson didn't. And they thought he should because they thought he was a great singer, better than Tom Jones.
She was going to make him make love to her right in the midst of the climax. While he was making love to her, she wanted to stab him. She wanted to see the look on his face. She said, wow, it'd really be something to see. You probably would.
They didn't like Sinatra. They were going to hang him up by a meat hook and then skin him alive while playing his own music and then make purses and sell them to a hippie shop so everyone could have a piece of Frank Sinatra.
She was trying to boast to me about how much acid had enhanced her knowledge.
But if it was taken with something like belladonna, which is what I had heard they use, belladonna makes you completely insane. You can't tell reality from hallucination.
I took it once, but it's horrible. Oh, you lose your mind like you have no control. I figure of it like this sex trip burned out, you know, like their orgies and things. I think like they weren't getting all the enjoyment out of it like they used to, you know. You know, I just couldn't figure out anybody telling anybody about it, you know. That's the quickest way to get caught.
Despite Sadie's confession and the subsequent arrest of Manson and the three girls, family life at the Spawn movie ranch continued undisturbed. However, they withdrew into their music and rituals.
Where the eagle flies, we will lie under the sun. Where the eagle flies, we will die to be one. Where the sun burns bright, we will soar into the sky. Never ask why, love never dies. Love never dies. Where the mountains reach like fingers to the sky. Never ask why, love never dies. Love never dies. Night so dark, the wind so cold. Those fires burning, you can't grow old. Just a playing with a poison one. Sunning yourself with the devil's tongue.
Games, hiking, drugs, and orgies was their lifestyle. An adolescent's paradise, no responsibilities, no decision-making. All in, no ego. They sang together, loved together, and killed together. Togetherness. Why, Shorty Shay's decapitation was a family project. Some tortured, some butchered, and some buried the pieces. And the establishment smugly dismisses the Mansons as an oddball phenomenon. These kids came from our own schools, our own neighborhoods, our own homes. By the time the Sadies and the Katies and the Leslies had reached the age of 14, they'd witnessed over 14,000 killings on television.
We are what you have made us. We were brought up on your TV. We were brought up watching Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, FBI, Combat. Combat was my favorite show. I never missed Combat. I always watched Combat because the guy that was the lead in Combat was my hero. You know, he was a big, strong dude, and he shot 40 or 50 people in each show, but he was still the hero. You know, he was still the beautiful dude that was doing it for some kind of cause, which they never told us. And I'd wake up every morning, you know, early in the morning before anybody was up, and I'd turn on the cartoons. And I'd watch 40 or 50 or 60 minutes of people shooting people. They'd make it exciting, you know, they'd be on stagecoaches or with whips or whatever, you know, Snidely Whiplash, and they'd make them, you know, characters that would catch the kids' attention. And this guy you were looking to for, you know, entertainment or whatever you want to call it, was killing all through the show. Every show we ever watched was all killing, all those old-time gangster movies where, you know, it was all exciting. They were in the cars with the low hats on and they were cruising and they were shooting out the windows, or, you know, it was all exciting. And we are what you made us. Exactly. So what's the big deal? 5 or 6 people get killed and you all freak out and put it on us, and we're just reflecting you back at yourselves.
Charlie is you.
He reflects you. He's
your
mirror.
reflection.
If you're guilty, then he reflects guilt back at you.
Because we're all guilty of the whole thing.
Manson has frequently said that he is merely a reflection of what other people want to see in him. If a new girl joining the family were seeking a Christ figure, he would be her Christ.
I've been laying up here paying for your sins for 2,000 years.
Yeah, he is God. And that's why they're hanging him. That's why they're killing him. That's what they want to kill, is God. That's what the preacher wants to kill when he wears his black robes and stuff. That's what the judge sits up there in his black robe and orders to death.
He said that he'd been hanging on the cross. You know, like 2,000 years ago, he'd hung on the cross and died for everyone's sins, and it didn't do a fucking bit of good. So now he's up again.
He was talking about killing my ex-wife, and I told him, well, Charlie, I don't believe in killing. And he said, well, I can give life, so I can take life. He says, I've died on the cross.
Yeah, I believed he was Christ.
In other words, Christ is love. Now, Charlie is love. That makes him and Christ one.
So even if they execute him, he's still one. He's got to where he's going. And if they set him free, he's one. Either way, he's winning out.
He's already died once for the whole world on a cross. In other words, you can't kill a man twice.
The thought of justice as being Jesus Christ dying on the cross is nearing completion.
Jesus Christ died with a heart on. He died with a beautiful smile on his face because it's a total climax to die. It's all music, all sound, all beauty, all color, all at once.
We talk this way and people say they're deluded. We've seen what's possible. We've seen Charlie do things that no human being has ever done, or no human being has revealed that he could do these things. No, we've seen miracles. We know that anything's possible.
Because he's a spark. He's a light.
We've seen him do, you know, what people call supernatural things. We saw him bring a bird back to life.
Charlie, like, the idea of what Charlie was scared the shit out of me.
This was Charlie's trip. He bred fear in people, always talking about anything that you might be afraid of, if it's some sort of sex, or if it's some sort of physical harm, or if it's some sort of thought. Whatever he could find that you would fear, he would play on. He wanted to mold the hippie movement into something. He said that his music would take all the young love and program them to go somewhere else, to go out into the desert. That he would make a huge tribe out there of 144,000. Then we would steal dune buggies by the hundreds and mount machine guns on top of the dune buggies, and the girls would drive the dune buggies while the guys shot the machine guns. We'd swoop down on little towns and kill everyone that wasn't beautiful.
The revolution is waiting for a spark. Everybody's ready. Everybody's got their guns together. Most people do, and anybody who doesn't should. And everybody's waiting for a spark. Everybody's waiting for somebody.
For a third-grade dropout, Manson was surprisingly knowledgeable about world revolutionaries. He fancied himself like Marx, Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin, as illustrated by this family-made collection. However, he patterned himself after Hitler, teaching Nazi philosophy to his family and planning his revolution.
There are a startling number of similarities between Manson and Hitler. Manson, like Hitler, has some other aspect to his personality, some frightening and tangible power and quality about him that no one has yet been able to discover.
So when Charlie gets out, it's on. The revolution is on.
Wealthy debutante Sandy Good had earned her B.A. and was halfway through her master's when she met Manson. In and out of jail frequently, She remains fiercely and dangerously loyal to Manson and his revolution. She stated, "The establishment won't let us live until we learn how to die."
And if you're not dead now, you better be dead. It'll be the worst hell on earth. It'll make Nazi Germany look like a picnic.
And they know what's going to happen. They know.
Lynn Frome, alias Squeaky, a typical suburbia USA child raised on kites, roller skates, and dancing lessons. She majored in psychology and aspired to be a social worker. She was the second girl Charlie collected, and his favorite. Squeaky says, every girl should have a daddy, just like Charlie.
You have to take whatever comes to you. You have to be ready right now, right here, right now. Just like that. And that's exactly where we're at all the time.
And one time, Charlie decided what it amounted to for me to go through my changes was that I had to die. Squeaky's coming up and she's telling me that her love wouldn't think anything about eliminating me.
And love is infinitely strong and infinitely mad. It's erratic and crazy, crazy. And soul, that's what soul is. It's this guy. Because it don't take much, and we're right animal. And as ferocious as we need to be, as electric, as snaky, just like this guy, as quick. We are animals. We are. All right, this is beautiful. Okay, so I'll be able to, you have to have this thing to where it just slides right out with your own motion. And you have to know every bit of it. You have to know it from the point all the way down to the handle, which feels good in your hand, which is comfortable. You know, sitting on the corner, we can't take out these knives all the time. Chris in the dark.
Death was Charlie's trip. Charlie said that everything was death, and that death was life, and that death was all, and that death was this, and that death was that, and that death, die, motherfucker, die. Everything was death.
Whenever we need to, we do. We respond. We respond with our knives. We respond with whatever we have. It feels good. It feels good to be ready to face death and love it.
Like Death Valley is not what people picture it to be at all. All they've heard about is a real hot, low valley that no one can live in. You know, just the name itself is death.
Catherine Scher, whom Manson named Gypsy because of her wild, tempestuous nature. A university graduate, majoring in music, and daughter of a prominent psychologist, Gypsy displayed an exceptional talent in oratory. And because of her persuasive articulation, she became Manson's prime salesman, recruiting such infamous members as Robert Beausoleil and Linda Kasabian.
We're going to the desert.
Money won't mean anything. There won't be wives. It'll be one man and one woman moving together, mowing down anything in their path, all headed towards Death Valley.
To Manson, Death Valley was a utopia, miles from civilization and the watchful eye of the police and parents. He settled his family into a strict Spartan lifestyle, training, drilling, and teaching them that crime thrives in the American system. However, if not for the resourceful Don Ward, deputy sheriff of Inyo County, who tracked them down and flushed them out of the caves and canyons, the family would still be at large. Manson attempted to murder the sheriff twice.
Charlie did control most of these people. People in the family that I've talked to were definitely under his control. Through suggestion, through mysticism, hypnosis, if you want to call it. I think there's a lot of people involved in that family that probably would not be capable of murder without Charlie. Brooks had told me that Charlie had told him that if he was going to stay in the family, that he wanted him to go to Shoshone and kill the sheriff. Given enough time, I think he's like anybody else in the family. He may have done it.
If I had still been in the family and hadn't gotten out, I'd be in jail now for murder.
considering all the changes that we went through with Charlie, and the fact that we both gave ourselves up completely for Charlie. I mean, we did anything, gave up our thoughts, our bodies, our whole lives. I went out and stole cars for him. I went out and go out and get girls for him. Went out and got dope for him. I'd do anything and just got completely entrenched in his world. And looking at that, it's really beautiful that we're so free and alive now.
19-year-old Steve Grogan, alias Clem, had been apprehended for truancy, burglary, car theft, vandalism, and indecent exposure. He got along fine with Charlie. Manson, who inoculated his family with hatred toward their parents, found his most avid disciple in Clem.
And we saw the little animals in the desert, and we'd see like the hunters come up in their jeeps, you know, and they'd be all drunk and stuff. Their awareness level would be about this high. And we'd see all the squirrels and the ground squirrels and chuckers, and we'd say, "All right, you guys, get in your car, get in the holes, man." Because the beasts are coming down the road. And it's like, whew. And they come to you with their guns, their big 357s. It's like you seen a little kid in the bathrooms or behind his house and say, "Look at my dick." And his friend would say, "Well, my dick's bigger than yours." They come up with their big guns, and they said, "I got a 350. Look at my 357. Well, I got a ring, jing, zip, zap, and they'd be comparing their dicks. You dig? It's like Freud would say, everything is phallic and vaginal. You dig? And so, like, they got the big dicks, man, because they can't fuck. Their mama has cut their nuts off, man, when they're little boys. So they fuck with a gun, man. Pow, wow. Experience all that, you know, vicariously.
All our lives, our parents have told us, stay in the background.
You'd have the girls write home to mom and dad and say, "Boy, I'm going to come home and send me a bus ticket or send me a train ticket or a plane ticket or send me the money. I need $200 to get home. And I'm going to come back and go to school and I'm going to get a secretary job and blah, blah." And they'd send the money and Charlie'd get it.
Charlie loves us to be beautiful. And he let us be beautiful. And he robbed us from our parents, and he gave us back to ourselves. And he wouldn't take us hanging on him. He wouldn't be our leader. He made us be strong inside ourselves and be our own leader. But see, our parents, they didn't do that. They made us depend on them, ask them questions. We don't need them.
So all of a sudden, we're right in front of the camera showing how we live, and then our parents' training pops in and says, "Get in the background. Serve the company their hors d'oeuvres, and go to your room.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Close the bathroom door.
You can't sing.
For always is always forever. And one is one is one. Look inside yourself for your Father. All is none, none is one.
If you're too bright, then they can't take it. They can't take you being too bright because they want to be bright.
Yeah, every girl ought to have a daddy like Charlie. Should, deserves to have a daddy like Charlie.
When I was a deer, I came to you in the forest. I saw a man as God. That's your rightful order. I came to you with all the love of my heart, for I was for you. And you slaughtered me. So therefore I had to hide. Hide myself where you would kill me. You did? That's why the kids hide, man. Because they come out and their parents tell them, shut up, get back in yourself. Don't be too bright, because then we have to judge ourselves. And we're not as bright as you and happy, and then we got all our guilt to balance off. It makes us look at ourselves.
Clem played the idiot so well that Superior Judge James Coates reduced his sentence to life imprisonment, stating, "It's clear Grogan functions barely above the animal level."
Never say never, you always. Never say always tonight. Seem is to dream a dream, my love, because one is one is one. For always is always forever. Because one is one is one.
Well, Charlie was trying to take over this religious organization called the Fountain of the World. And Shorty had lived at the Fountain of the World, and so he knew what Charlie was doing with the fountain. Charlie wanted to use the fountain as a base of headquarters to go out and kidnap kids, bring them there, tune them in, or program them, or take them out to the desert. He said he had to kill Shorty. He had to have Clem chop his head off. He said that Shorty wouldn't die until he chopped his head off. He said they just kept stabbing him and stabbing him and stabbing him and stabbing him, and he just wouldn't die. He had blood up to his arms, and he kept saying, "Why, Steve, why?" That's Clem's name. And Clem said he didn't pay any attention to him. He just kept stabbing, and then Charlie told him to cut his head off. So he got a machete and whacked his head off. His head went bloop, 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 and rolled over to the side.
And Clem will be eligible for parole in 7 years.
Guilty. How do you feel about Charlie?
All the love I have. If they ever laid a finger on Charlie, well, they'll have to contend with us. If we were unarmed, we would chew their necks off. Anything, claw their eyes out. And they know it. Because we haven't hid it. We have made no secret of our feelings.
I can't conceive, I won't conceive of the state executing Charlie.
I can't either. I can see him being free.
They're willing to be in there for everybody. They know they're in there for everybody, you know. And the whole jail's together over them. Every girl in there loves them, just loves them like crazy.
We were scared of him. Besides, nobody likes a baby killer. Not in jail, anyway.
Maybe we'll all have to go in to get out. Maybe all of us will just go in, knock on the door and say, me.
Sadie's an open hole. She's very open.
She's given up completely, you know, to, you know, whatever. You know, like she sees the gas chamber facing her, but, you know, she don't care. And that's what people can't understand, that she don't care. She's giving up her life for all the young people to be free.
How about Mary Bruner?
She felt she was getting out, you know. She's just out for a while. I mean, we're all in jail, you know. So she's out for a while, and it feels nice, you know. But she knows she's still in jail. As long as Bobby's in jail, she's in jail, you know. As long as any one of us is in jail, we're all in jail, you know. I'm just walking around out here, but I'm in there. I'm in there with all those people. I'm in there with every young person that should be free. And I'm in the Hall of Justice with Charlie. And I'm in death row with Bobby. because you might see different bodies, but we're all one mind, one spirit. And wherever we are, none of us will be free until every single one of us is out, you know. And I might as well just be in jail. If I thought I could do better in jail, I'd just walk right in right now.
The truth has not been in your courtrooms. Never has been in your courtrooms. All you have is confusion in your courtroom. Why do I have to stand and take the blame for your sins again? I spent my life in jail, paying for you, so that you could ride your bicycles, have your birthday parties, have what you'd call a life. You know, I never had a life. I don't even know what life is, you know. I go to the desert. I'm not even allowed to live in your desert. I'm no good for anything except to be used as your scapegoat. I'm used every day of my life. I've been used. When I haven't been used and I have been on the street, I've been chased, run, harassed, pushed, kicked. My ribs have been broken, you know. The same man that gives you a traffic ticket is the same guy that knocks my brains out. He figures just because he is the man, he can get away with it because nobody's going to say anything. My daddy's not a congressman, a doctor, or a lawyer.
He was in jail for about 23 years in an incubator. He was just born into this world about 4 years ago. He's not in there because he has to be. He doesn't have to be in the Hall of Justice. No one is keeping him at the Hall of Justice. No one is keeping him in that court. If he wanted to, he could be sneaky enough to walk out of that jail.
Don't you want me to make you? It's coming down fast, but don't let it break you. Tell me the answer. You may be a lover, but you ain't no dancer. Look out, helter skelter. Helter skelter.
He's been in jail every 3 weeks since he's been out of jail, and that's why we were hiding for so long. Now, throwing us in jail is nothing. We'll die for each other before you can separate us.
I'm ready to die for Charlie. He's ready to die for me. He has died for me.
It's like those girls on the corner have got more faith than this whole country's got.
Perhaps because of the massive press and news coverage, Manson quickly became a martyr to the youth. Young people were interviewed in major cities before, during, and after the trial.
I think he's a great person. Yes, and I love him dearly.
I think he's darling.
I think he's okay myself.
I don't think he did it.
I think it was inspired by the devil.
Well, I don't think he's right in what he did.
I think he's cool. Oh, I think he's a cool dude.
Carlos Manson es el producto de la sociedad americana. Es un loco, un maniático, un asesino, un anglosajón.
Charles Manson? Il est complètement fou. Il est comme tous les Américains.
These novelties and posters quickly flooded the head shops and sold out. In a bid for even more publicity, he carved an X on his forehead, shaved his head, then arrogantly altered the X into a blatant swastika. His robot-like family followed suit, and the hippie community, which had swallowed the Manson martyrdom, now vomited him up, back to the establishment. However, the press and the news media obliged again with headline coverage, and while Charlie watched from his cell, his girls sat vigil on the corner below, and Broadway and Temple became the major tourist attraction in Los Angeles. Runaways gravitated to the corner, and Charlie's family grew. The family was so intent on breaking Manson out of jail that Gypsy, Dennis Rice, Kenneth Como, Lawrence Bailey, and Mary Bruner allegedly attempted to rob a surplus gun shop in order to hijack a jumbo 747 and ransom the family on death row. The attempt culminated in a bloody shootout with the police. Over 200 guns were confiscated, and the raiders apprehended. From inside prison, an angry gypsy lashed out at the establishment.
They've taken one man, and they put him in front of you, and they put him in the newspaper every day. It's something to focus on. It's something to look at. It's interesting. And they make him very, very, very exciting, a devil of every type and description, everyone's nightmares, everyone's boogeyman, so that you won't notice what's going on right around you. So you won't notice that war across the ocean, And you won't notice your brothers leaving every day and getting killed. And you won't notice the rioting that's happening in the streets or the bombing. They're focusing their attention on a scapegoat so that you can look and have all your hate towards that one awful man. And so you won't look at Nixon and what he's doing. And Nixon points his finger at Charles Manson, and he says, with his bloody finger, he says, that man's a murderer. Nixon is going one way. Manson is going the other. And both cannot live with each other.
The motive for the murders was love of brother, because we knew we'd do anything to get Bobby out of jail. It was simply that Bobby had been arrested for the murder of Hinman, and the girls, to get him out of jail, decided to commit copycat killings with writing on the wall and the whole thing. You know, multiple stab wounds. And thereby letting the police to believe that the killer was still at large. Linda suggested the Tate house, because she had been there. And she got in the car and she drove to the Tate house. Here's what Katie said, Patricia Krenwinkel. The prosecutor was, you know, ranting and raving and said, why did you carve war on his chest? You know, didn't you feel remorse? And she says, no. She says, I wasn't thinking. The only thing that went through my mind is, here's one man who won't send his son to war. Lino LaBianca. And then she put a fork in the stomach.
Charlie ordered Tex, Sadie, Katie, and Linda to kill everybody in the Tate home. How come you, Squeaky, or Brenda didn't go?
Well, Cap wanted to go, but there wasn't any room in the car. I was pregnant and I was sleeping.
Yeah, I knew about it. But I didn't care one way or the other if I went or not.
They, more or less asked for this type of experience. There's sadomasochist movies, Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion. These people were putting out a picture to be murdered. Over and over again. We all got up on the stand. The three girls confessed. And very straightforwardly, they laid down why and how they committed the murders. And we all got up and we said, you know, we knew. So it was a soul move. Nobody really talked about it. There's something, you know, it was really nothing to talk about. I remember Katie telling me about it, and I went through a change, and then I realized I had the baby. 1 million babies die, and 1 million babies are born.
But Sharon Tate's baby died. Yours didn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anybody can kill anyone.
Did I know at the time? Yeah.
How did you feel about Sharon Tate's baby?
Not one way or the other. In other words, I knew that it was all perfect.
Sure.
As perfection is.
In other words, I had a brother once who went to war, and it's the same love, and got shot and got killed, just like that, for nothing. It's the same thing, exactly. Love is being killed every day. Every single day, love is being killed out in the battlefields.
And that was the motive, love of brother. We knew Charlie would give his life for brother.
But Manson never intended to give up his life for any of them. Charlie tried to beat the rap.
And the girls loved Bobby enough to do this. They were willing to die as they took these people's lives. They were willing to give their lives, which they're doing right now. They're on death row.
Playing the role of the oppressed revolutionary, Manson attracted other revolutionaries. Jerry Rubin, one of the Chicago Seven, requested and was granted an interview with Manson. They spent hours airing their ideologies.
We are sneaking in the county jail, looking under the door to see if the man is there. Sneaking like little children out of town. Sneaking all around the courthouse. Sneaking in and out of the ventilators, sneaking everywhere. Everything is sneaky up around Sneakyville. Everything we have to do is to get to the truth has to be sneaky. It seems a shame to sneak to get to the truth, to make the truth such an evil, dirty, old, nasty thing. You gotta sneak to get to the truth. The truth is condemned. The truth is in the gas chamber. The truth has been in your stockyards, your slaughterhouses. The truth has been in your reservations, building your railroads, emptying your garbage. The truth is in your ghettos, in your jails, in your young love, not in your courts or your Congress, where the old sit judgment on the young. What the hell do the old know about the young? They put a picture of old George on the dollar and tell you that he's your father, worship him. Look at the madness that goes on. You can't prove anything that happened yesterday. Now is the only thing that's real. You can try to prove that Columbus sailed on an ocean, but it's not the same ocean. It's a different ocean. It's a different world. Every day, every reality is a new reality. Every new reality is a new horizon, a brand new experience of living. I got a note last night from a friend of mine. He writes in this note that he's afraid of what he might have to do in order to save his reality, as I saved mine. You can't prove anything. There's nothing to prove. Every man judges himself. He knows what he is. You know what you are as I know what I am. We all know what we are. Nobody can stand in judgment. They can play like they're standing in judgment. They can play like they stand in judgment and take you off and control the masses with your human body. And they can lock you up in penitentiaries and cages and put you on crosses as they did in the past. But it doesn't amount to anything. What they're doing is they're only persecuting a reflection of themselves. They're persecuting what they can't stand to look at in themselves. The truth. They can't stand to look at the truth in themselves. They persecute themselves. They're butchering themselves every time they go on the freeway. They hate themselves. Look at the signs. Stop. Go. Turn here. Turn there. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't. This is illegal. That's illegal. Everything's illegal. The police used to watch over the people. Now they're watching the people. The president doesn't represent the people. He should be on the roadside picking up his children, but he isn't. He's in the White House sending them off to war. And you're saying I have to pay for this again? And again and again, I've got to pay for your sins. How many times have I got to pay for your sins? I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. The people you call my family were people that you didn't want, children that were alongside the road that their parents had kicked out. So I took them to my garbage dump and fed them and taught them that in love there's no wrong. Everything they've done for love of brother.
I lived with Charlie for 1 year straight, and on and off for 2 years. I know Charlie. I know him inside and out. I became Charlie. Everything I was Charlie. There was nothing left of me anymore. And all the people that are in there, there's nothing left of them anymore. They're all Charlie too. He confided me about killing people, about how groovy it was to stick a knife in somebody and turn it sideways, and about how groovy it was to lob off some guy's head and watch it go rolling, and how warm and groovy the blood was as it squirted all over the place, and how far out it was to take a gun and blast some guy in the stomach, about how far out it would be to go into a house and cut the pussies out of women and cut the dicks off of little boys and stick them in their mothers' mouths and wipe blood all over the place and smash bodies into things and just have pools of blood everywhere. Because he said there was no death. He said death was love. Charlie had no idea what love was. Charlie was so far from love, it wasn't even funny. But when I was in there, I thought it was love. I didn't know. How was I supposed to? I had never seen love in my whole life. And here's some guy saying, love, love, peace, beauty. And at your back door, he's telling you the kill is all right. The death is just the most beautiful trip in the world. And the killing is a fantastic thing. Life is life. And the only way you get to life is through life, not through death.
The Manson family is now serving a combined sentence of 321 years.